She promised to protect her. She swore on everything sacred that the gift would save her life. But when the girl finally understood what the old woman had really given her, it was already too late. The water was rising, the villagers were screaming, and the ancient secret wrapped around her body began to glow with a light that wasn't meant for human eyes. What happens when the person who saves you is also the one who seals your fate? What happens when protection becomes a prison, and the truth you've been running from has been living inside you all along? This is the story of Emma, a girl who thought she was ordinary, living in a small Nigerian village where life moved like the river, slow and predictable, until the day an old woman appeared at her door with a gift wrapped in palm leaves and a warning that would haunt her forever. No matter what happens, no matter who asks, no matter how much it hurts, do not remove it. Emma didn't know then that this piece of cloth would become both her blessing and her curse, that would make her faster, stronger, more alive than anyone in her village, and that it would also mark her for something far more terrifying than she could ever imagine. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're new here, click on the subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Emma was 17 when her life changed forever. But before that moment, she was just another girl in a village where everyone knew everyone's name, everyone's business, and everyone's place. She lived with her mother in a small house on the edge of the village, where the forest whispered secrets and the river sang songs that only the old people claimed to understand. Her father had died when she was young, drowned in that same river during a fishing trip, and ever since then, her mother had forbidden her from going near the water. "That river takes more than it gives," her mother would say, her voice tight with old grief. "It took your father, and it's always hungry for more." Emma never questioned it. She stayed away from the water, helped her mother sell vegetables in the market, and tried to ignore the whispers that followed her wherever she went. You see, in a village where everyone fit neatly into their roles, Emma was different. She was too curious, too restless, too prone to staring at the distant hills and wondering what lay beyond them. The other girls her age were already married or preparing for marriage, learning to cook their husbands' favorite meals and weave baskets for their future homes. But Emma couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more, something bigger than this village, bigger than the life everyone expected her to live. The older women noticed. They always notice. It was a Tuesday morning when the old woman first appeared in the market. Emma remembers because Tuesdays were market days, when the village came alive with the smell of roasted corn, the sound of haggling voices, and the sight of bright fabrics flapping in the hot wind. Emma was helping her mother arrange their vegetables, yams and peppers and okra. When she felt it, a strange prickling sensation on the back of her neck, like someone was watching her. She turned and saw her. The old woman stood at the edge of the market, leaning on a twisted walking stick, her eyes fixed on Emma with an intensity that made Emma's stomach clench. She was ancient, her skin dark and weathered like old leather, her hair a crown of white that seemed to glow in the sunlight. She wore traditional wrappers in deep indigo, and around her neck hung countless strands of beads that clicked together when she moved. The other villagers gave her a wide berth. They whispered behind their hands, casting nervous glances in her direction. Emma's mother grabbed her arm. "Don't look at her," she hissed. "That's Mama Ife. She's a priestess, a keeper of old ways. People say she talks to spirits, that she knows things no human should know." But Emma couldn't look away. The old woman smiled, a knowing smile that sent chills down Emma's spine, and then she turned and disappeared into the crowd. Emma tried to forget about her. She went home, helped her mother prepare dinner, fetched water from the well, did all her chores like she was supposed to. But that night, as she lay on her mat in the darkness, she couldn't shake the image of those ancient eyes, the way they had looked at her like they could see straight through to her soul. 3 days later, someone knocked on their door long after sunset. Emma's mother was already asleep, exhausted from a long day of work, so Emma answered it. The old woman stood in the doorway, her face half hidden by shadows, her beaded necklaces gleaming in the moonlight. "I've been waiting for you," she said, her voice rough and low like gravel scraping against stone. Emma's heart hammered in her chest. Waiting for me? I don't understand. I don't even know you. The old woman smiled again, that same unsettling smile. But I know you, Emma. I've known you since before you were born, since before your mother carried you in her womb, since the spirits first whispered your name to me in dreams. You are marked, child. You are chosen, and whether you understand it now or not, your destiny has already begun. She reached into her wrapper and pulled out a bundle wrapped in dried palm leaves, tied with rough twine. She held it out to Emma, and Emma found herself reaching for it, even though every instinct screamed at her not to. What is this? Emma whispered. A gift, the old woman said, and a protection. Wear it always, from this moment until the day I tell you otherwise. No matter what happens, no matter who asks, no matter how much it hurts or burns or feels wrong, do not remove it. Your life depends on it. Your soul depends on it. Do you understand me? Emma nodded, though she didn't understand at all. The old woman leaned closer, so close Emma could smell the herbs and smoke clinging to her clothes. There are things in this world that hunger for girls like you, Emma. Things that live in the water, things that remember the old bargains and the old debts. This garment will hide you from them, but only if you never take it off. Promise me. I promise, Emma heard herself say. The old woman nodded, satisfied, and then she was gone, melting into the darkness like she had never been there at all. Emma unwrapped the bundle in the privacy of her room, her hands shaking. Inside was a garment unlike anything she had ever seen. It looked like a sleeveless vest made of fabric that seemed to shift colors in the lamplight, sometimes deep blue like the river at midnight, sometimes green like sunlight through leaves, sometimes silver like moonlight on water. Intricate patterns were woven into it, symbols Emma didn't recognize, spirals and waves and shapes that hurt to look at too long. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. She slipped it on over her nightclothes. It fit perfectly, as if it had been made specifically for her body, and the moment it settled against her skin, she felt it, a surge of something electric running through her veins, a sudden clarity in her vision, a sharpness in her hearing. She could hear her mother breathing in the next room, could hear insects moving in the thatch of their roof, could hear the river in the distance singing its ancient song. Her hands tingled. Her heart raced. What had the old woman given her? She wore the garment under her clothes the next day, and everything changed. She moved faster without meaning to, her steps lighter, her reflexes sharper. When she went to the well to fetch water, she carried the heavy bucket on her head with ease, walking so smoothly that not a drop spilled. The other women stared. When she helped her mother in the market, she could sense customers approaching before they arrived, could tell who would buy and who would only browse, could negotiate prices with a confidence she had never possessed before. Her mother noticed. There's something different about you, she said, studying Emma's face. You look the same, but you don't feel the same. What's happened to you? Emma didn't know how to explain, so she said nothing. But the changes kept coming. She could run faster than anyone in the village. She could climb trees with the agility of a monkey. She could see in darkness that would blind others. Animals that normally fled from humans would approach her, drawn by something they sensed but couldn't name. Birds would land on her shoulders. Stray dogs would follow her home. Once, when a venomous snake slithered across her path, it simply stopped, raised its head to look at her, and then turned away. The villagers began to whisper. They always whisper, don't they? They whispered that she had been cursed, that she had made a deal with spirits, that she was becoming something inhuman. They whispered that the old woman had put a spell on her, that she was dangerous, that she should be watched carefully. Emma felt the weight of their stares everywhere she went. She heard their conversation stop when she walked by, saw them make protective gestures behind her back. Even the village elders began to take notice. They called a meeting, gathering under the ancient Irako tree where important decisions were made. Emma's mother was summoned. Emma was summoned. They sat on wooden benches while the elders, 5 old men with faces carved by time and wisdom, studied them with suspicious eyes. The girl has changed, the chief elder said, his voice heavy with authority. We have all seen it. We have all heard the stories. She moves like a spirit. She knows things before they happen. Animals follow her like she is one of them. This is not natural. This is not right. Emma's mother gripped her hand tightly. She's my daughter, she said fiercely. She has done nothing wrong. She's a good girl. She works hard. She respects her elders. Whatever you think you see, it is nothing evil. The chief elder was unmoved. Where did this power come from? Did she go to the crossroads at midnight? Did she make sacrifices? Did she accept something from someone she shouldn't have? Emma felt all their eyes on her, heavy and accusing. She wanted to tell them about the old woman, about the garment hidden under her clothes, about the warning she had been given. But something stopped her. Some instinct, some whisper in the back of her mind that said, "Don't tell them. They won't understand. They'll make you remove it, and then you'll be lost." So she said nothing. She kept her head down and let their accusations wash over her like river water, cold and relentless. The elders dismissed them eventually, but Emma knew this wasn't over. She could feel the village's fear growing like a living thing, spreading through whispered conversations and sideways glances. People who had known her all her life now crossed the street to avoid her. Mothers pulled their children away when she passed. The market women refused to sell to her mother, claiming their goods were already promised to others. Emma felt the isolation closing in around her like a fist, and she began to understand that the garment had given her power, yes, but it had also made her other, separate, marked. The garment itself began to feel different. At first, it had been comfortable, almost like a second skin. But now sometimes it felt tight. It pressed against her ribs, constricted her breathing, made her skin itch and burn. She would reach for it without thinking, her fingers finding the edge of it under her clothes, and she would pull at it, wanting relief. But every time she did, she would hear the old woman's voice in her head. "Do not remove it. Your life depends on it." Why? What would happen if she took it off? What was the garment really protecting her from? One night, unable to sleep, Emma sat outside her house and stared at the stars. A voice spoke from the shadows. "It hurts, doesn't it?" Emma jumped. A figure emerged from the darkness, a young man from the village named Michael, someone she had known since childhood. He had always been kind to her, one of the few who hadn't joined in the whispering and staring. He sat down beside her, keeping a respectful distance. "The power," he said quietly. "Whatever it is you have. It looks like it hurts." Emma's eyes burned with unshed tears. "I didn't ask for this," she whispered. "I didn't want to be different. I just want to be normal again. I just want people to stop looking at me like I'm some kind of monster." Michael was silent for a long moment. Then he said, "What if you could take it off? What if you could go back to being who you were before? Would you?" Emma's hand moved to the garment under her shirt, fingers tracing its edge. "I was told never to remove it. I was told my life depends on keeping it on." "But whose life?" Michael asked. "Yours? Or someone else's? Maybe whoever gave you this thing is using you, Emma. Maybe you're being controlled. Maybe taking it off is the only way to be free." His words made terrible sense. Emma had been so focused on obeying the old woman's command that she hadn't stopped to question why. What if the garment wasn't protection at all? What if it was a trap, a way to control her, to use her for purposes she didn't understand? Her fingers found the seam of the garment, and she pulled gently. It would be so easy. Just one quick motion, and she could be free. She could be normal again. She could have her life back. But something stopped her. A memory of the old woman's eyes, ancient and knowing. A whisper of warning that sang through her bones. A sense that if she removed the garment now, in this moment, she would be making the biggest mistake of her life. "I can't," she said, pulling her hand away. "Not yet. Not until I understand what this is really about." Michael sighed. "Then I hope you figure out soon, Emma, because the village is turning against you, and I don't know how much longer you'll be safe here." Michael was right. The village was turning against her, but Emma didn't realize how bad it had gotten until the sickness came. It started with the children. First one, then 3, then 7, all falling ill with the same symptoms. High fevers, violent shaking, strange markings appearing on their skin like burns, but cold to the touch. The village healer tried every remedy she knew, every herb and poultice and prayer, but nothing worked. The children only got worse, their cries filling the night air, their parents desperate and terrified. The elders met again under the Irako tree, and this time, they didn't summon Emma. They made their decision without her. Emma found out when a group of villagers appeared at her door, their faces hard and angry, carrying torches even though it was still daylight. Her mother tried to stop them, but they pushed past her, their leader a man named Chief Okon, whose own daughter was among the sick children. "It's her," he said, pointing at Emma with a shaking finger. "Ever since she changed, ever since she got this unnatural power, bad things have been happening. The children getting sick, the crops withering in some fields, the river running strange. She's brought a curse on us. She has to leave." Emma's mother stepped between them. "You've known this girl since she was born. You've seen her grow up. She has done nothing to harm anyone. This is madness." "Then let her prove it," another voice called out. "Let her remove whatever charm or spell is protecting her. Let her show us she's still human, still one of us." Emma felt her blood run cold. They wanted her to remove the garment. "I can't," she said. "Please, you don't understand. If I remove it, something terrible will happen. Something terrible is already happening," Chief Okon shouted. "Our children are dying, and you're the cause. Either you remove whatever protection you're hiding, or you leave this village forever. Choose now." The crowd murmured their agreement, pressing closer. Emma saw no sympathy in their faces, no understanding, only fear and desperation and the ugly need to blame someone, anyone, for the suffering they couldn't control. Her hand moved to the garment under her shirt. Maybe they were right. Maybe the garment was causing all of this. Maybe removing it was the only way to save the children, to save her mother, to save herself from being driven out of the only home she had ever known. Her fingers found the edge of the fabric. She pulled gently, feeling it begin to loosen. The air around her seemed to change, growing heavier, colder. In the distance, she heard thunder, though the sky was clear. The river's song grew louder, more insistent, like it was calling her name. And then a voice cut through the chaos like a blade. "Stop!" The old woman appeared at the edge of the crowd, moving faster than her ancient body should have been able to move, her walking stick striking the ground with sharp cracks that silenced everyone. She pushed through the villagers like they were nothing, her eyes blazing with fury, and grabbed Emma's wrist, pulling her hand away from the garment. "Fools!" she hissed, turning to face the crowd. "You have no idea what you were about to unleash. You have no idea what you're demanding of this child." Chief Okon stepped forward. "We want answers, Mama Ife. We want to know what you've done to her, why our children are suffering, why everything has gone wrong since she changed." The old woman laughed, a bitter, terrible sound. "Your children are suffering because of something that happened long before Emma was born. They're suffering because of a debt this village has been running from for 3 generations. They're suffering because the water spirits have finally come to collect what they're owed." Silence fell over the crowd like a heavy blanket. The old woman leaned on her walking stick, suddenly looking every one of her many years. "Let me tell you a story," she said. "Let me tell you the truth you've all been too afraid to remember." She told them about Emma's great-grandmother, a woman named Adiz who had lived in this village 60 years ago. Adiz had been the most beautiful woman anyone had ever seen, with a voice like honey and a smile that could make men forget their own names. Many men wanted to marry her, but Adiz refused them all. She had bigger dreams than becoming someone's wife in a small village. One night, during a festival, Adiz went down to the river to wash her face. And there, in the moonlight, she met someone. Not a man. Not exactly. A Mami Wada, a water spirit, beautiful and terrible, who rose from the depths with scales that gleamed like diamonds and eyes that held the mysteries of the deep. The Mami Wada was captivated by Adiz's beauty. She offered Adiz a deal. "Come with me to my kingdom beneath the waves. Be my companion, my treasure, my beloved. I will give you immortality, riches beyond measure, everything your heart desires." But Adiz was clever. She knew that accepting such an offer meant leaving the human world forever, becoming something neither fully human nor fully spirit. So she made a counteroffer. "Give me 3 wishes," she said. "Grant me 3 wishes, and in return, I will give you something precious. Not me, but someone from my bloodline. 3 generations from now, when the time is right, you may claim one of my descendants to be your companion instead." The old woman's voice dropped lower. The Mami Wata agreed. She granted Adi's wishes. First, that Adi's would marry the man of her choosing and that their love would be true. Second, that Adi's family would never know hunger or poverty. Third, that Adi's would live long enough to see her great-grandchildren born. All 3 wishes came true. Adi's married, lived a long and prosperous life, and died peacefully in her sleep at the age of 93. But the debt remained. The Mami Wata waited. She waited through Adi's children, through Adi's grandchildren, counting the years, patient as only immortal creatures can be. And then Emma was born. The crowd was silent, hanging on every word. Emma felt dizzy, like the ground was tilting beneath her feet. "Emma is the fulfillment of the bargain," the old woman said. "She is the one the Mami Wata has been waiting for." And 6 months ago, when Emma turned 17, the Mami Wata came looking for her. She sent her servants, lesser water spirits, to find Emma and bring her to the river. They were supposed to take her during the new moon, to drag her beneath the waves and keep her there forever. Emma's mother gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. The old woman nodded. "But I knew. The spirits told me in dreams. They showed me what was coming. So I made the garment, wove it with old magic and powerful protections, patterns that hide Emma from the water spirit's sight. As long as she wears it, they cannot sense her. They cannot find her. They cannot claim her." Chief Okon's face had gone pale. "Then why are the children sick? If the garment is protecting her, why is the village suffering?" The old woman's expression was grim. "Because the Mami Wata is angry. She's been denied what was promised to her. She cannot find Emma, so she strikes at the village instead, sending illness and misfortune, trying to force you to give Emma up. She knows human nature. She knows that frightened people look for someone to blame, that you would eventually turn on Emma and demand she remove the protection. And if Emma had removed the garment tonight, the water spirits would have sensed her immediately. They would have come for her before sunrise. She would have been taken to the river, dragged beneath the waves, and lost forever. And your children? They still would have died, because the Mami Wata's anger would not have been satisfied with just Emma. She would have taken them too, as punishment for making her wait so long." The silence that followed was suffocating. Emma could barely breathe. Her entire life, everything she had believed about herself, had been built on a lie. She wasn't special. She wasn't chosen for some great destiny. She was payment. She was the price for wishes made before she was even born. "So what do we do?" someone in the crowd asked, their voice small and frightened. The old woman looked at Emma, and for the first time, Emma saw something like pity in those ancient eyes. "There is only one way to break a bargain with the water spirits," she said. "Emma must face the Mami Wata herself. She must go to the river, confront the spirit, and negotiate a new deal. It's the only way to save herself and save the children." They went to the river at dawn, when a mist was still rising from the water and the world felt caught between dreaming and waking. Emma walked to the front, the old woman beside her, and behind them came half the village, silent and solemn. Emma's mother held her hand tightly, tears streaming down her face, but she didn't try to stop her daughter. What choice did they have? Emma had spent the whole night awake, thinking about what the old woman had told her. She thought about her great-grandmother Adi's, making a bargain without knowing the true cost. She thought about how easy it is to make promises for the future when you won't be the one to pay the price. She thought about the children suffering because of choices made before they were born. And she realized something. "I'm angry," she said to the old woman as they walked. "I'm so angry I can barely think straight. My great-grandmother sold me before I even existed. She traded my life for her wishes, and I had no say in it. That's not fair. That's not right." The old woman nodded. "No, it isn't. But fairness is a human concept. Spirits don't understand it. They only understand bargains and debts and the keeping of promises." "Then maybe it's time they learn something new," Emma said. They reached the riverbank. The water was dark and still, like glass, reflecting the orange and pink of the sunrise. Emma stepped forward, her feet sinking into the muddy shore, and she reached down to touch the water. It was cold, much colder than it should have been. "I know you can hear me," Emma called out, her voice stronger than she felt. "I know you've been waiting for me. I know about the bargain. So here I am. Come and face me." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the water began to move. Ripples spread outward from the center of the river, growing larger, faster, and then the surface broke. She rose from the depths like a dream made real, the Mami Wata, and she was terrible and beautiful in equal measure. Her upper body was that of a woman, with skin that shimmered between brown and silver and deep green, and her lower body was a massive serpent's tail covered in scales that caught the light like precious gems. Her hair was long and black and seemed to move with a life of its own, like seaweed in a current. Her eyes were black as midnight and ancient as the ocean itself. The villagers gasped and stepped back, but Emma stood her ground. The garment beneath her clothes burned against her skin, reacting to the spirit's presence. "So," the Mami Wata said, her voice like water flowing over stones, beautiful and cold. "You have finally come. I have waited so long for you. Child of Hades, I have dreamed of you, imagined you, yearned for you. You are mine, promised to me, bound to me by blood and bargain. Come into the water. Let me take you home." Emma felt the pull of those words, the seduction in them. Part of her wanted to obey, wanted to walk into the water and let it close over her head, let herself be taken away from all the fear and uncertainty and anger. But a bigger part of her remembered the sick children, remembered her mother's tears, remembered the weight of a debt she had never agreed to carry. "No," Emma said. The Mami Wata's eyes flashed with surprise and then anger. "You refuse me? You cannot refuse. A bargain was made. Your great-grandmother promised you to me. You're mine by right." "A bargain was made," Emma agreed. "But not by me. I never agreed to this. I never promised you anything. You made a deal with someone who had no right to trade my life away. That's not a bargain. That's theft." The river began to churn, the water rising, waves crashing against the shore. The Mami Wata's beautiful face twisted with rage. "You dare? You dare to insult me? I could take you now, garment or no garment. I could drag you beneath these waves and keep you there for 1,000 years. I could destroy this entire village for your defiance." "You could," Emma said, her voice steady even though her heart was racing. "But you won't, because that's not what you really want, is it?" The Mami Wata paused, her anger flickering like a candle in the wind. "What I want is what was promised to me. A companion, someone beautiful and clever and special, someone to ease the loneliness of eternity." And suddenly, Emma understood. She understood the truth beneath the anger, the pain beneath the rage. The Mami Wata wasn't just angry about a broken bargain. She was lonely. She had been lonely for so long that she had waited 60 years for a promise to be fulfilled, clinging to the hope that someday someone would choose to be with her. "You don't want a slave," Emma said softly. "You don't want someone who comes to you because they have no choice. You want someone who wants to be there, someone who chooses you. But that's not me. I'm sorry, but I don't choose you. I choose my life, my mother, my village, my future, whatever it might be. I choose to be human, with all the pain and joy and uncertainty that comes with it." The Mami Wata was silent for a long time. The water calmed, the waves settling back into gentle ripples. When she spoke again, her voice was softer, sadder. "You are right," she said. "I am lonely. I've been lonely since the first human looked upon the water and wondered what lay beneath. I thought a bargain would give me what I needed, but bargains cannot create love. They cannot create true companionship. I have been a fool." She looked at Emma with those ancient eyes, and Emma saw something she had never expected to see in a spirit. She saw tears. "The children," Emma said. "Can you heal them? Can you take away the sickness you sent?" The Mami Wata closed her eyes. "I did not send the sickness out of cruelty. I sent it out of desperation. But yes, I can take it away. Consider it done." Emma felt something shift in the air, like a weight lifting. Behind her, she heard gasps and cries of joy. The children were healing. The mommy wada began to sink back into the water. "Wait," Emma called out. "What will you do now?" The mommy wada smiled, a sad, wistful smile. "Why, I've always done. I will wait. I will watch. I will hope that someday someone will come to me, not because they were promised, not because they have no choice, but because they want to know me, to understand me, to be with me of their own free will. Perhaps that day will come. Perhaps it will not. But I will wait." She vanished beneath the surface, leaving only ripples behind. Emma stood on the riverbank for a long time, staring at the water, feeling the weight of everything that had just happened settling into her bones. The old woman came to stand beside her. "You did well," she said quietly. "You found a way that I didn't think was possible. You broke a bargain not with force, but with truth. You reminded an ancient spirit what it means to be seen, to be understood." Emma reached under her shirt and touched the garment. "Can I take it off now?" The old woman nodded. "Yes. The danger has passed. You're free." Emma pulled the garment off over her head, and the moment it left her body, she felt the difference. The heightened senses faded. The unnatural strength ebbed away. She was just Emma again, ordinary and human and completely herself. It felt like coming home. Her mother ran to her, wrapping her in a tight embrace, sobbing with relief. The villagers approached slowly, shamefaced, apologizing for their suspicion and anger. Chief Okone fell to his knees. "Forgive us," he said. "We were wrong about you. We were so wrong." Emma helped him to his feet. "You were scared. Fear makes people do terrible things. But it's over now. We can start again." Life in the village returned to normal slowly. The children recovered fully, running and playing as if they had never been sick. The crops that had been withering began to grow again. The river sang its usual song, peaceful and calm. Emma went back to helping her mother in the market, went back to her chores and her quiet life. But she wasn't the same, and everyone knew it. She had faced a water spirit and lived. She had broken an ancient bargain with nothing but her words and her courage. The other girls her age treated her differently now, not with suspicion, but with respect, even admiration. The elders consulted her when difficult decisions needed to be made. Michael still came to sit with her sometimes in the evenings, and they would talk about everything and nothing, and Emma found herself looking forward to those conversations more than she wanted to admit. The old woman visited one last time before she disappeared. She came to Emma's house at sunset, carrying a small cloth bag. "I'm leaving," she said. "My work here is done. But before I go, I want to give you something." She handed Emma the bag. Inside was the garment, carefully folded. "I don't need it anymore," Emma said. The old woman shook her head. "Keep it, not to wear, but to remember. Remember that protection can also be a burden. Remember that the most important choices are the ones we make for ourselves. Remember that even ancient debts can be challenged if you have the courage to stand up for what's right." Emma took the bag, feeling the weight of the garment inside. "Thank you," she said, "for everything. For protecting me when I didn't even know I needed protecting. For teaching me what I needed to know." The old woman smiled, and for the first time, it was a warm smile, genuine and kind. "You taught yourself, child. I just showed you where to look." And then she was gone, walking down the path toward the forest, her walking stick tapping against the ground, until the shadows swallowed her and Emma never saw her again. Emma kept the garment in a wooden box under her bed. Sometimes late at night, when she couldn't sleep, she would take it out and hold it, remembering everything that had happened. She would think about her great-grandmother Adiz, making a bargain without knowing the true cost. She would think about the mommy Wada, lonely and desperate and angry. She would think about how easy it is to make promises for the future, how hard it is to live with the consequences of other people's choices. And she would remind herself of the most important lesson she had learned, that we are not defined by the bargains made before we were born, not by the debts we inherit, not by the expectations others place upon us. We are defined by the choices we make, by the courage we show when faced with impossible situations, by the compassion we extend even to those who would harm us. Emma understood now that not every loss is the end. Sometimes what feels like a curse is actually the beginning of something greater. Sometimes, the moment we think we're most powerless is when we discover our true strength. So I want to ask you something, and I really want you to think about this. If you were in Emma's position, if you discovered that someone in your family had made a promise about your life before you were even born, a promise that would take everything from you, how would you respond? Would you honor that bargain because it was made by someone you loved? Or would you fight it, even knowing that breaking it might bring consequences you can't predict? And here's the harder question. If you were the mommy Wada, if you had been waiting alone for decades, holding on to the only promise of companionship you had ever been given, would you have let Emma go? Would you have chosen loneliness again rather than force someone to stay with you who didn't want to be there? These aren't easy questions, and there are no simple answers. But they matter. They matter because somewhere in your life, you've probably felt like Emma, bound by expectations you never agreed to, carrying debts you didn't create, trying to find your own path while everyone else tells you what you owe them. And maybe you've also felt a little like the mommy Wada, holding on to something so tightly because letting go means facing a truth you're not ready to accept. Emma's story reminds us that the most powerful thing we possess isn't strength or speed or magic. It's the ability to see clearly, to understand truly, to choose wisely. Emma could have been taken by that river. She could have been lost forever. But she wasn't, because when the moment came, she chose herself. She chose her truth. She chose her life. Not selfishly, and not cruelly, but honestly. And sometimes, that's the bravest thing anyone can do. Think about the bargains in your own life. Think about what you've been told you owe, what you've been told you must be, what you've been told you cannot change. And then ask yourself, what would Emma do? What would you do if you realized that the only person who can set you free is you? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Tell me where you're watching from. Tell me if you've ever felt bound by promises made before you had a say. Tell me what you would have done in Emma's place. I read every comment and your stories, your perspectives, they matter to me. They add to this conversation we're having, this exploration of what it means to be human, to be free, to be brave enough to choose your own path. And if this story moved you, if it made you think or feel or question something you've been taking for granted, then do me a favor. Subscribe to this channel, because this is what we do here. We tell stories that matter, stories that dig deep into the human experience, stories about choices and consequences and courage and hope. Next week, I have another story for you, one that will shake you to your core. It's about a man who was given a second chance at life, but the price he had to pay was higher than anyone could have imagined. It's about redemption and sacrifice and the question of whether some mistakes can ever truly be forgiven. You won't want to miss it. Until then, remember Emma's lesson. Remember that you are not your debts. You are not your obligations. You are not the bargains other people made. You are your choices. You are your courage. You are your truth. And that, my friends, is something no spirit, no curse, no ancient bargain can ever take away from you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of this journey with me. I'll see you in the next story.